Hello and welcome to Drive and Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan.
I'm Ryan.
And this is the podcast where we cover 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into today's movie, I want to talk to you about our Patreon. If you head over to patreon.com/Drive and Double Feature Podcast, just for $5 a month, you help support the show and you get fun bonus content over there, which we've been uploading a lot of stuff. We do have one free episode if you want to check it out. It's a lot of fun. But getting into today's episode, we are talking about The Streetfighter from 1974, Japanese martial arts movie starring Sonny from from PlayStation. No.
Yeah.
Sonny Chiba, which you might know from Tarantino, Kill Bill, that's where everyone knows him from. But this was another one I kind of knew about. This movie, it is generally considered like a pretty popular grindhouse movie. It's even in True Romance. I think Christian Slater goes to see a Street Fighter marathon in that movie, but also that movie's written by Tarantino. So, maybe it's just Tarantino that's forced everybody to watch this movie. We've talked about the Tarantino effect on this channel before.
I don't think he's seen the movie.
He probably hasn't. And he just I bet you he's seen like under 500 movies and he just says he's seen all these movies.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. But no, the Street Fighter, I had no experience with it. Did you have any experience with it going in?
No, I had never seen any of the Street Fighters at all. I mean,
Yeah.
I played the game that it was based off of. Great.
Well, yeah, the name of that game does come from these movies. They actually had to remove the from the title to make it just Street Fighter, which is pretty cool.
But yeah, it was a good movie. You know, I loved Raul Julia in this role right here.
I think you watched. Did you watch Street Fighter the game, the movie?
No, it's the only Street Fighter. You got Jean-Claude Van Damme. See, that's why Tarantino never saw it. The movie wasn't made then when he wrote that. So,
oh, okay, got you. I don't know. I think we might have seen different movies. I know there was like 5 versions of this movie sitting out there to watch, but
oh boy, was there ever?
Yeah, so I actually watched this movie like the morning of this recording. And I turned it on. The first Tubi one they had, the aspect ratio was like barely the size of my screen. Like it was just like a tiny square in the middle of my screen. And I was like, okay, I'm not watching this. There's a second Tubi one. Great quality, actually really nice quality. And it has hard-coded subtitles. But it's the worst subtitles you will ever read. Because Ryan, I'm guessing you didn't find this one from the look on your face.
No.
I think these subtitles were like AI generated. I'm dead serious. Like they are just like a jumbled mess of words that don't make any sense. And I was like, I couldn't sit and watch that version because I was just reading this horrible text under the movie. And I ended up finding a pretty crappy copy on YouTube, but it was dubbed and at least watchable. So that's where I ended. How was your experience finding a copy of this movie?
Horrible. This movie, like, I was, if I didn't watch it the week of the recording, I would have strongly considered buying a Blu-ray copy just out of spite, just to like. Yeah. But I looked at, I think it's out of print maybe right now. But
I think so, yeah. It was made by Shout Factory. I know they have a Blu-ray set,
but I don't think it's available right now. But anyway, first I started watching the YouTube version, and I'm just like, oof, this is rough looking. Like this because it looks like a VHS rip.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's the one I watched.
And the other bad thing too is that it's dubbed, and the other issue with this one is that it's also like zoomed in like to fit the frame. And so like you can't even see like the full image of the movie.
Yeah, it's like a pan and scan VHS almost.
Yeah, so it's like the whole image takes up the entire screen. And I really wanted subtitles because the audio on this version also is awful.
So bad.
Like I had trouble making out what they were saying. And Um, but YouTube does have closed auto-generated closed captioning, so it wasn't like exactly word for word, but I was like, okay, this is kind of tolerable, I guess. And but then I went onto Tubi, and I'm like, okay, well, Tubi's obviously got to have a better quality, right? And then I saw the first one you were talking about, where it's like, you have to like pull out binoculars to see like what's on the
Yeah.
screen. So I was like, well, yeah, this is watchable. And then there was no subtitles on this one. I'm like, what
Oh
the
my
hell?
God.
So I was just looking, I was scanning everywhere, and um I went and I found another version
Mm.
on the Roku channel.
Oh, really? Wow.
And this one, it was subbed with subtitles.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
But but
There's no perfect answer to watching this movie.
no, there's not. So I turned it on, and I'm like, oh, it's like in the native language. It's got subtitles, but then like as I was watching for like a couple of minutes, like something was off with the subtitles. The subtitles were like a minute behind of what they're at when they were talking.
Oh my God.
And I like that, like one of my biggest pet peeves with like watching any type of media is out of sync audio or subtitles.
Yeah,
It's
same here. I can't stand it.
like I've watched some stuff where it's like not even synced, and I'm like, this is unwatchable. I can't even watch it because this is like making me so angry. And just
Yeah.
so I tried shutting it off. I tried turning it back on, and it wasn't happening. So I'm just like, I can't watch this. This is unwatchable, because it would it would have them talking, and then it would show you what they were saying like almost a whole minute later. I'm just like,
That's
so
miserable.
so I just hung my head in shame, went back to YouTube, and I'm like, at least I can see it and I can read
Yeah.
properly. So
So hey, it sounds like we kind of met at like the
uh,
same end.
well, no, you mentioned one other version on
Uh-huh.
Netflix.
That's right. Yeah, I found out about this one after watching it, and I was like, okay, it's streaming on Netflix. Let me see this. It's really nice, but I noticed that there were about, I think it was about 15 minutes shorter, and I was like, okay, that's weird. And I looked into it. The Netflix version is a censored version of the movie with all of the violence taken out, which sounds like, we'll get into it, but that sounds like the worst movie you could possibly watch is the Streetfighter without any violence.
It doesn't even make any sense. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I think I watched like Tokyo Gore Police on Netflix one time, and I'm like, it's
yeah, I
like
don't.
I've seen some of the bloodiest movies ever, and like they have like Narcos and all those where it's like
Yeah,
extremely violent shows. I'm like, why is this
yeah.
one thing censored?
I think what it is this movie is public domain, and it's been public domain for a long time. And I think when you get public domain, you get all the, especially for like kung fu martial arts movies, you get a lot of people just distributing. Like, I'm sure you've been to like stores and you've seen like really crappy DVDs with like the worst quality posters on it.
Uh,
I
or
go
it'll be like you get like they'll say something like you'll see like a DVD that says like martial arts, and it's like
Yeah.
30 martial arts movies or something like that, and it's like
hmm
all these titles you've never heard of,
hmm
but it's because it's public domain, so they can legally distribute it.
Exactly. And I think all these streaming services have gotten different copies of this, including Netflix, for whatever reason, getting the public domain censored version, which I can't believe even exists. And I think that's what's caused like this mess. And I would actually really like to go back to this one day and maybe actually watch it in a proper quality. I would. I mean, like, I
And
would at least want to appreciate it the way it's meant to be appreciated.
well, no, I just laughed because I had the same thought. I was like,
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah. I guess getting into this movie and why I said what I said about the violence being cut out. This was the first movie in America to getting X rating for just violence alone and not for sexual content, even though there's sexual content in this movie. And that's because it is very, very violent in spurts. There's some big bloody gory moments, and that's kind of its claim to fame. And it was actually extremely popular upon release in America. It was actually a really big deal. I think New Line Cinema put it out, and it's considered their first hit, which is pretty cool. I knew that going in. I'll just say it now. The violent bits are really cool. Everything else in between, personally, I thought was pretty uninteresting. It kind of put me to sleep.
Well, yeah. So I kind of leading up to this, and me just trying to find this movie,
Mm-hmm.
I was all right. What I should have done is maybe like taking a break. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, maybe I am not in the right frame of mind for this movie anymore
Yeah.
because I was so frustrated looking for like a good quality version of it. I was just kind
Mm-hmm.
of like really turned off to like even watching a movie at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was like, no, gotta soldier on. But with that being said, if so take that as you will for my review of the
Mm-hmm.
movie. But I was kind of bored by this movie, and
Yeah.
there are some good little violent bits, but like just very uninteresting for the most part.
It is. It's not really an interesting story. It's as basic as you can get. And also doesn't wait. So wait, did you end up watching the dubbed version or this?
Yes.
Okay. The dub is just really awful.
Uh huh.
And it's incomprehensible at moments. So I understand why you really needed subtitles, because like there's times where they're talking and it sounds like just like they're slurring, and like I didn't know what was going on at some.
Yeah, I mean, like I can watch a movie without subtitles. I prefer to have them on, but
Yes, yeah.
I can watch a movie. But this one, it's like the audio for it is so bad, and
Mhm.
I couldn't make out what they were saying half the time. Even on the Tubi one, I was like trying to like
Mhm.
at least make it out, and this one it was so funny. But yeah, they everyone has English names, so
Terry.
Sonny Terry and Rat Face.
Yeah, I love that the opening title is like whatever his name is Rat Face.
Yeah, which is
uh,
not what his name is in the Japanese version.
of course not. No. The opening of this movie is really odd because it takes place in a prison, and we have a guy in a cell, and Sonny Chiba shows up, or Terry, which I think is that name is it Fatal Fight? Yeah, Fatal Fight
Fa-
is Terry, or
Fatal Fury.
Fatal Fury. Sorry, Fatal Fury, that has Terry in it. Is he named after this Terry?
I don't know, but yeah, I don't
They
know
don't look
about that.
alike. Uh,
Yeah,
just speculation. But yeah, Terry shows up and punches this guy in the throat so he can survive being hung, I think, but he ends up having a heart attack instead before going to the gallows.
it's an oxidation, or like deprivation or whatever, like
Yes, yeah. The tank.
punch. Yeah,
No,
yeah, he gets about to
yeah.
get hanged, and he the guy just collapses, and I'm just like, well, if he needs to go to the hospital, we have to postpone his execution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then and then Terry, because I guess Terry was hired to save this guy. And come to find out, his brother is the one who asked to save him, but Terry sent him off to another country. And so the brother's like, I'm not going to pay you the other half of the money I owe you, Terry, unless I actually see my brother. Terry doesn't like this, and they get in a fight over it. Um, what a silly scene of like them like fighting, kicking each other, and the brother does like the kung fu move and just goes flying out the
Yeah,
window. And people, when they fall out of windows in this movie, they land head first, and you see the whole the splash on the pavement. And it's like super over the top.
Yeah, why couldn't they do like what they did in Godzilla, where they just like throw a dummy off a cliff?
Yeah, Godzilla. I think there was a James Bond that was like an obvious dummy. Or God, not James Bond. But yes, the Godzilla one. That's the one I will always remember. The little dude just like flailing. It's good.
Like in a perfect formation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very silly scene. Like, because I thought they were like going to imply. I thought they were implying, or at least maybe they did, is
Mm-hmm.
that Terry killed the brother too,
Mm-hmm.
and was going to just basically just take all their money. But I don't know, like, and then immediately after this, since they can't pay the bill and the
Mm-hmm.
brother is dead, he takes the sister who is there, he sells her into sex slavery.
Yeah, yeah, and we see the scene where she's like been pushed into sex slavery, and I'm like, this guy's our hero, and he's supposed to be the hero for the rest of the movie.
I know. I was like, when am I supposed to like this guy? Like,
Yeah, you never do. And he has like a weird. So I've never seen one of his movies before, except for Kill Bill, and I've never seen Tokyo Drift, which he's in that, right? Um,
mm-hmm.
and his fighting style in this movie is really weird because he looks like he needs to take a crap, and he's just like just
Well,
making weird noises.
that was the other thing. Like, I really did not care for the fighting in this one. It was just filmed
Mm-mm.
like in a very boring way. Like, it wasn't like, like granted, like I like the earlier Hong Kong martial arts movies, they're super choreographed, like almost looks like
Mm-hmm.
a gymnastics routine. And it's not near the level of what we saw in Police Story, where it's like
No, no.
they're doing like these crazy stunts. And you're just like, I don't even know how they're doing this. But this
Mm.
one, it's just like, I don't know. It's just like real boring fighting, I thought.
Yeah, and I want to say it's because it was because it's maybe a Japanese martial arts movie and they take it in a different direction versus like a Hong Kong style martial arts movie. Because from what I know, Japanese martial arts movies is usually with like weapons, and then here it's hand to hand. It's like a mix of Chinese boxing and kung fu, I think is what they say. But
Mm-hmm.
but I agree, the fighting is only okay. Like it's fine in certain times, but
It's fine.
it's never like nice choreography. Much rather watch like Dirty Ho any day of the week over this. Um, or Dirty Huh, if I want to be correct on that one.
Please, thank you.
But where does this movie even go from here? I think
Well,
it gets. Oh,
so
go ahead.
there's like, yeah, like the whole big plot point of this is that after he sells this woman into sex slavery, there was like a news report about this oil baroness
Mm-hmm.
that her father had like just died, and so she just inherited a bunch of money,
Mm-hmm.
and so the yakuza tries to hire Terry
Mm-hmm.
to go kidnap her, and he's like, "Huh, are you from the yakuza?" And they're like, "We don't talk about that. We don't."
Yeah.
Like, no comment. And they he's like, well, I don't work with yakuza at all. That's against like that.
But I'll
He just
sell
sold
women
them.
to sex slavery.
Yeah, like that's his bar right there. He's like, women to slavery. Yeah, whatever I gotta do to get my money, but I'm not working for no yakuza.
Uh-uh.
And so that's like his whole big deal, is like he goes and tries to find this oil baroness for some reason. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Did they make it clear like why he goes after her, other than like I guess he wants to go try to like extort her out of money for
Yeah.
protection?
Well, that's why I was like a little worried talking about this movie afterwards, because I kind of left it like I don't even really know what like the motivation was for most of this movie. I mean, it just felt like a chase movie. Like it never really is, or at least I never got out of it why he was going for this girl. And then I knew he was just being chased by the Yakuza the whole time. And that's kind of
Right.
just the rest of the movie.
Right. So I mean, kind of like the reason, since he didn't agree to work with the Yakuza, the Yakuza people were like, well, then you're gonna just have to die. And he's just
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, because I guess he found out they're Yakuza, so they don't want him to know about it. So
Yeah.
that's like a whole big thing. Like they're trying to kill him. They're trying to kidnap this girl,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like a whole big thing. Like, he gets to like a dojo that's being guarded by her uncle, I think.
Yeah, who's kind of like a chunky dude,
Yeah,
but he does kung fu. So I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah,
Even though
not.
he's a red belt and everyone else was a black belt.
He'll get his black belt one day.
The leader of the dojo has the red
Yeah,
belt and he's working hard at it, but he's judging everyone else.
he's got an eye for talent. He's just not great for it.
Okay, yeah, I get it. I get it. He's like a talent
But
manager.
yeah, but no, like he beats up everybody. I think he kills some of the people too in the
I
dojo.
think so, yeah.
Yeah, and but then like it kind of ends in a stalemate when he takes on like her uncle.
Yeah, which I think is I that's one thing I was thinking about. I do kind of like that because Terry does get beat up in this movie pretty bad. He's not like the kind of hero that just never gets a scratch or anything. He gets hurt, he gets beat up, and he does get beat up by the uncle. But he you get it like that black and white flashback in the middle of it where it's like, oh, never stop fighting, Terry, and that gives him the drive to win the fight.
Well, because they keep calling him a half breed, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because he's half Chinese and half Japanese.
I think isn't the line in here from King of the Hill where he's like, "Are you Chinese or are you Japanese?" I think that line
So are
comes
you
up.
Chinese or Japanese?
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah,
yeah, which is funny. I didn't know Mike Judge was doing homages in King of the Hill.
he
Yeah,
probably watched it
I can imagine. But yeah, so they end.
with Quentin or yeah,
I
like
could see
they're in the
that.
same arena.
I think they could still. I think they could be buddies. Tarantino's like, when are we getting Extract 2? I wrote Extract 2. Let me in on this. Yeah. But yeah, and then the rest of the movie is kind of a chase, and you get to hang out with Rat Nose, who's like his live-in buddy, his life partner.
Mhm.
I don't know what their
Well,
deal is. They're like friends
I,
that live together.
I like the scene. The one part it got me a chuckle was like in the very beginning of the movie
Mm-hmm.
when like after the sex slave thing, like they go in there and Rat Nose is like, "Okay, dinner. I made an American style roast chicken."
That was pretty funny. Yeah. And he pulled it out of the oven and everything.
Yeah, he's like, I don't. Nobody wants that. He's like, it's like you do all the cooking. Like they're a married couple.
Yeah, that's what it feels like too, because they're like, I mean, I'll just, it happens later on, but Ratnose does die towards the end of the movie, and Terry, he's sad. He's crying over his dead buddy's like dead body. I forget what he says to him. Sometimes, like I already mentioned this, sometimes the dub they would say something, I'd be like, all right, I guess I'm not going to understand that for now. We're just gonna skip over that.
No, I don't remember what he said, but it was something to do with like, well, because during all this chasing,
Mm-hmm.
um, they do eventually kidnap the girl,
Yes, yeah.
and how they do that is they're about to kill Terry, and then Ratnose is like, "I'll tell you, just don't kill Terry,"
Mm-hmm.
and Terry gets all mad because he's like, "Why did you do that? Why did you give her up like that?" And he's like, "Well, you're gonna die,"
Mm-hmm.
uh, and he keeps like begging, like, "I'll be indebted for you for life. I'll be your slave."
That's right. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, and then I every time he said Terry, it sounded like daddy to me a little bit, like he was calling him daddy. I don't know. I was hearing that. I don't know.
That
Maybe I'm a
there
weirdo.
was there are so many variations on Terry, like in on the dub on the auto generated
Oh my
captions.
God, really?
Yeah, there was Terry, Telly, Jelly, Jerry.
You know what's funny about that? Did you notice this at some point in the movie, towards the end of the movie, the dub completely changes. They get new actors for everybody, or at least Terry gets a brand new actor.
I thought that, but maybe I thought that though. I was like, why does he sound so different?
I looked it up, and actually, I guess whatever public domain copy that's really popular, the dubbed one that's going around, the one that we watched, is a mix of two different voice, or what do you call it, studios, just studios for voice actors, like that they recorded smashed together for whatever reason. So like that makes it even more of a mess. That This is another movie. I feel like we've had movies before. It's like I just don't know if I can properly be like, was this a good movie? At the end of the day,
I honestly don't feel like I saw this movie.
yeah. Don't log it on
Like,
Letterboxd. I'm just kidding.
well, I am, because I need the stats.
You got to have the credit.
Yeah, but I just was like, this one definitely deserves a rewatch, because or like a proper, like, how it was intended to be viewed, because this was just such a mess, and it was
really
just
was.
like, even like the more violent scenes are supposed to be like, ooh, wow, like, they did not have like like a big impact to me. Like, there's like a scene where like somebody throws a knife and hits a guy in the eye and it starts splurting out blood. Or
Yeah.
there is one that I'll say that I thought was pretty unique, is when he like punched a guy in the head and you see like the X-ray.
That scene rocked.
That was like, okay, that was pretty good, but still it looked like garbage.
Yeah, and that's like what, 2 seconds of the whole movie, because it quickly flashes to the X-ray of his head like broken, and then his face is just covered in blood.
Yeah, so that was like a whole thing. But like, as far as like the story goes, I mean, I got the gist of it, and because they kind of bring it all back together, where that original prisoner gets out of jail and he rescues his sister from sex slavery, and he basically tells them like, it's like, hey, if you let my sister go, I'll go kill that guy. And they're like, all right, if you can go kill Terry, like, you and your sister can go home. And that's like that he ends up being the final boss.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, the guy all the way from the beginning of the movie ends up being the final guy, and it's in a fight in the shipyard, so it's like really dark, which is already not great for the quality of the movie.
But I mean, like, this whole time though, I'm like, I want the other guy to win. I'm like, this guy is completely justified and like wanting Terry dead. Like,
it makes no sense, like, that we're supposed to be like, yeah, no, beat the guy that you sold his sister into sex slavery. Shouldn't the movie be from his point of view? Honestly, like, you sold my sister into sex slavery, I'm gonna kill you.
Like, if he was made the protagonist, I'd be like, yeah, it totally makes sense. I get it. But now it's like, because of Terry, his brother is dead, and his sister is like virtually traumatized for the rest of her life now. And they do have a nice little scene where, like, she, because they're fighting, and she wants Terry just dead just as much as him, and she goes and like wraps her arms around Terry, like, to get like in a hug formation, and she's like, here, just stab me and go through me to stab Terry.
That's right. Yeah, which that's a good bit, but it doesn't work in the end, because Terry wins, and it's very quick too, because he wins, he stands up, and it says the end, and it like does like a twirl onto the screen, the graphic.
Well, he kills most everybody, except there's like that one like crime boss at the end.
That's
and
right.
And I'm just like, oh, I guess he's fine with Terry like being there. That's how we're gonna leave it. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Good. They don't want to wrap it up. Oh, we do got to mention there's one other bit. There's a guy who gets his this is the reason he got an X rating. There's a guy who gets his junk ripped off at one point in the movie. So yeah, that happens. Gotta bring it up.
Was that on the YouTube version, or was I
No, it
zoned
was.
out?
You might have been zoned out. It also doesn't like show it. Like he reaches down. It's the black dude when he dies because he reaches down, grabs him, and he's just like holding like a piece of his pants, and I guess that's supposed to be him ripping off his penis, but it doesn't show it or anything. Which that character is so like I don't. He's like this odd bad guy because he's at the beginning. Doesn't he sleep with that guy's sister when she sold in the sex slavery? He's there, and then come to find out he's he again later in the movie. He's like he's sexually assaulting another woman, a completely different woman. It's
That's
like,
right.
This guy is like the worst person you could think of. What a movie.
Well,
we only can talk about it here.
Only the time I'd ever want to talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah, like I as far as like my rating goes, I guess if you want to put an asterisk on that one, fine, maybe. But as it is now, I would not give this movie a recommend. I was pretty bored throughout most of it, and I was not really into the whole thing.
No, I agree. It's a not recommend. I don't think it's a movie that's worth the few minutes that are fun. It is a very small portion of the movie that I think that I enjoyed versus like you're gonna have to sit through a pretty dull experience to get there. So
I imagine though maybe it looked a little better if I could actually see the thing.
Exactly, and like that, I picked this one because I saw on Letterboxd it has a pretty high rating, a 3.6 on average, which is pretty high for a movie like this. So maybe I'm just missing something whenever like the quality is just this rough.
Quentin Tarantino told me to rank it high, so I gave it a 3.5.
Yeah, I promise. Tarantino, I loved it. But I think that does wrap it up for the Street Fighter. So Ryan, remind us, what are we going to be covering on Thursday?
Oh, well, Nathan, we got the hype train going here with another martial arts classic.
Oh yeah,
and
from Hong Kong, I hope.
Yes, definitely, and that is going to be Double Dragon, and that one is also for free on Tubi, and you can see it. It is actually a watchable copy over there.
I could finally watch a movie.
Yes.
I'm glad. Well, I'm excited to do that. If you want to send us an email, you can email us at driveanddoubleFeaturePodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at DIDFpod. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube. We're on there. Remember to check out our Patreon. That's it for plugging, I promise. Until next time.
Until next time.